She either now or never, you know. It's yeah.
Tell me the story. You told me this once before when we talked about one day when my grandfather had read an article.
Oh yes, yeah. I forgot about it. I meant to tell you. Years ago, his grandfather, Louis Miller, read a Hebrew paper every day. Took it from New York. And he's reading about this fellow who'd been hired by the state of Israel to go to Poland to disinter the remains of this man who was an author and written a book about foreseeing what Hitler was going to do to the Jewish people. But nobody believed it, of course, like the Jews in Germany wouldn't leave Germany because they said, this is our home. We're Germans. We're not. But anyway, so he was hired by the state of Israel. He was either with the embassy, he had worked for the embassy in England or British embassy, or he worked for the Israeli embassy. I don't know which one. But he went to bring the guy in, and there was an article about him in the paper, and he was staying at a hotel. He was visiting in New York, and he was staying at this hotel. So Louis Miller called Pop up and said, hey, this man's name is so similar. He says, we spell our name P-I-Z-I-T-Z, but he spells it P-U-Z-Y-C. P-U-Z-Y-C. Puzit, P-U-Z-Y-C. And he said, it's pronounced almost the same. He said, I wonder if he's any kin to you. So Pop got on the phone and called him and got in touch with him. He found he's Pop's first cousin. You know, because Hitler did away with a lot of the folks, you know. But he was, because all of Pop's uncles had migrated to this country except one. And his one uncle was a leather dealer. He would come over with his own ship and buy leather goods in this country, go back and had his own leather tanning places in Poland.
So your dad actually went to New York to meet you?
No, he didn't. Dad was already in his 80s and couldn't see very well. So, but he did talk to him at some length, and then the guy left. And when he came back, he did call Pop up again and ask him, could he come? And he said, I'm just not able, you know, it's not be a hardship for me. But he actually was Pop's first cousin of all things, you know. So never think about something like that. But, you know, they changed the name. Well, I'll tell you an interesting story about Pop. Pop, they brought him into Ellis Island. And everybody, they keep him there, you know, a few days. And the buyer for Pizitz in Birmingham went to pick Pop up, put him on a train to Birmingham. And when he went in there, the guard says, his papers weren't in order. He can't be released. And the buyer says, well, he's got to be out. The guy said, no, we can't let him go. He said, how about if I give you $5? The guy says, he's on his way out. So he took Dad to the train station. He bought him some fruit and maybe some bread, put him on a train and put a ticket on him where he was going and his name, because Pop didn't speak English, and sent him to Birmingham, and from Birmingham he went to Tuscaloosa. So that's how
was your dad related to
the old Mr. Pizitz in Birmingham and my great-grandfather were brothers. My great-grandfather was a lot older because their parents died real young. And the older Mr. Pizitz was only 6 or 7 when the parents died. And my grandfather was already a grown man, great-grandfather, and he raised the Pizitz in Birmingham, and he had 3 sons, raised them all together, you know, like his own family, you know, because they were all pretty close in age. So, but he was my great-great-grandfather, and the boys, of course, in Birmingham would be like what, 3rd, 4th, 5th cousins now. So we have never been close, but we do talk occasionally, and I asked them why they got out of the retail business. They said, well, we sat down one day and we figured how much we owed and how much we owned. He said, we didn't own anything. It was time to go, time to go. And,
did you know Isidore Pizitz in Tuscaloosa? Was it Isidore?
Sure.
Yeah.
Isidore and
Was
Sam.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. It was Pop's cousins.
Okay.
Yeah, I would go, when I was at school, I would go down to the store, you know, occasionally and visit with them. And they would always, one would say, come on, Norman, let's go get something to drink. So I'd go out, come back in the store, and they would say, hey, Norman, let's go get something to drink. Max Pizitz was he wasn't very tall. He's probably shorter than I am, because I'm short as it is. But when he talked, he had a group around him, so he would talk like this. But everybody around him would bend over, because he drew so much respect. He was one of these people, you know, that he demanded respect, and he was a good merchant. He was a tough old merchant, but he was, it's okay, Morton, thank you. I didn't know if I need a pen or not. I didn't know if y'all could afford a pen. What else? Can you come up with anything else, Morton? Now, you want me to tell you about Mark, a little bit more about Mark?
Yeah, of course.
Mark, of course, was a very popular kid, if I do say so, at school. And he had gone with a friend of his, and Mark was only 15, and the boy was with, his friend was 16, and they drove over into Westbury, into that area, to a party one evening. And they were coming home. It was, about 10:30, I guess 11 o'clock. They were coming home on Whitesburg. That's when the old theater used to be on Whitesburg. And this fella, Leonard Bragg's son-in-law from Bragg's Furniture, was drunk out of his mind. They were in the far right lane, and he tried to pass them in the far right lane. And he hit the back of the car that they were in, and they were in a station wagon, hit the car. When he did, he hit the bumper and he turned the car this way, and he kept coming, and he sheared into the passenger side and knocked my boy out of the car and killed him, basically, you know. And he survived till he got to the hospital and succumbed at the hospital. And but that was probably the biggest funeral they ever had out of the high school around here, because the whole high school was there.
Yeah, you also started a tennis tournament? Or
I started a tennis tournament. I'm glad you ran it. For 21 years, I sponsored a tennis tournament with his name. What happened, Gordon Warden, who was a tennis pro, and I grew up together. We lived across the street from each other. And it was really his idea. And he called me up one day and he said, we'd like to have a tournament, in a citywide tournament in Mark's name. And he said, I've got Pepsi will sponsor it. And I said, no, it's not going to be any commercial sponsoring. And I said, I'll sponsor it. And I gave door prizes. I'd give anywhere from $25 to $200 door prizes to the kids. And I bought T-shirts for all the kids and anybody else associated with them. You know, just I did it for 21 years, and I really enjoyed it. We had a lot of good kids played for us. But it was the hardest thing could ever happen to a parent.
It was. And I remember, Norman, when I heard about it, I sort of just stopped everything and came over to your house, and I came over with Rabbi Emanuel.
Yeah,
Him up,
Chuck, nice guy.
And I appreciate you sharing that story. I think it's important to have it documented. I really do. I appreciate it.
I told you I get emotion.
I can imagine. There'd be no reason not to.
It's very hard.
Is there anything else that
Chuck did a lot. He was awfully nice,
he was?
and Chuck was a good guy. I never will forget. We were all playing tennis. I don't know if you were with us that day. You may have been. And Chuck missed a ball. And he let out an expletive, and I said, "Chuck, and you are a rabbi." He said, "Yeah, but I was a man before I was a rabbi."
Chuck loved to play tennis. And yeah, we did. We played together quite often.
Yeah.
And y'all can continue on. I just somewhere.
Well, would you bring up these things that makes me think of things?
Well, that's
and
what we were here.
I know I've jumped around all over the place.
But
yeah.
I just thank you so much for sharing what you have.
Well, it's just stories, and it's going to be gone. It's going to be gone, So.
And we appreciate it so much.
Well,
really
sure. I'm tickled to death to do it. No big deal for me. And
how will he be able to do this? Or can you ever get him one and put it